We call this a meeting of June 20th, 2023, City Council meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. I do believe Mr. Franciot, would you take the roll, please?
Mr. Carter.
Present.
Mr. Young.
Present.
Mr. Walters. Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Here.
Ms. Moulton.
Here.
Mr. McDougall.
Here.
Ms. Hubick. Thank you.
We received notice from Ms. Hubick, and Ms. Hubick asked that she be excused from this meeting. So if we have a nomination.
I move to excuse Ms. Hubick from tonight's meeting.
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Ms. Moulton and second by Ms. Cleland McGrath and Mr. Carter. Thought I'd throw that in there. Okay, and also I think Mr. Walters, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you, unanimous. And I do believe Mr. Walters will try to come in a little later on. If not, we will excuse him.
Yes, I think I might preemptively excuse him. I think he's on the road right now on his way to the Association of Washington Cities conference. So I move to excuse Mr. Walters from tonight's meeting.
Second.
All right, moved by Ms. Moulton, second by Mr. Carter. All right, we're going to move on to announcements and committee reports. I'll start out with a few. The mayor's away. He's diligently asked and supplied me with some of the announcements that he wanted done, and I appreciate that, Mayor. The first is the Washington State Transportation Committee will meet Wednesday, June 21st at 9 a.m. to discuss changes to ferry fares. Again, the Washington State Transportation Commission will meet Wednesday, June 21st at 9 a.m. to discuss changes to ferry fares. The meeting is open to public, either in person or virtually. It will be held at the San Juan County Council Chambers, which is at 55 2nd Street in Friday Harbor. The public will be able to provide comment before the commission selects its proposed fare changes, which would then go before the public for review and comment through July 30th. Please see the Washington State Transportation Committee website for details and a meeting link. Also, don't forget, if you're out there, if you had dreams of being in the 4th of July parade, creative ideas of what you want to do, there's a huge opportunity to register your group or float for the 4th of July parade. The parade application is available online at the city website. Again, if you've got dreams of being in the 4th of July parade, please register your group or float for the 4th of July parade. The parade application is available online at the city website. Last thing, I think it would be important at this point, if okay with council, is that we've had a bit of a discussion of an event that normally takes place here in Anacortes. And I think it's important that, given that sometimes there's confusion between what's really happening and then what has happened. And so we're still sorting it out. And that in particular is associated with the oyster run. And so what we've done is we've each done our homework, and we were trying to clear up the misunderstanding. The oyster run, to my knowledge, have indicated that they may not be hosting the oyster run this year for a variety of reasons. And from my understanding, it has nothing to do with the city. as the city has always reached out to do whatever's possible to make them feel at home here in the town. So what I've asked is the chief to come up. He's had some conversations with the organizers directly, and he wanted to share part of that conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Young. I received a call from the event organizers, the Oyster Run Committee, and their leadership team last week, and they had just a few questions regarding the Oyster Run, and explained during that process that the main event organizers had been doing this for a number of years, and were getting either A, to advanced age and no longer physically able to help with that, or B, had been doing it long enough that they were becoming burnout on all the organization it takes to put that large event together. I know that last year, upon our return from the pandemic to the Oyster Run, the Oyster Run Committee had mentioned they had not received as many vendors for the Oyster Run event as they had prior to the pandemic. It sounds like we're competing with a number of other events that are occurring at the same time. One of those that was specifically mentioned was the Puyallup Fair, and I did notice a significant drop in the food vendors that were here last year, in addition to merchants with vendor booth setup. The Oyster Run Committee was going to look for someone else that'd be willing to maybe take that responsibility forward, and last I was told that they were going to contact me if they had found someone that was willing to do that. Based upon the social media post that they sent out yesterday, I'm assuming that did not occur, and they submitted a email late yesterday evening requesting to pull their permit request back.
Just at a clarity point, they had requested a permit, correct?
I wasn't part of that process. That would have went to the planning department, but the email said that they no longer wish to pursue that. So I'm assuming that it was submitted at some
I got
point.
it. So you're saying that you received an email saying that they no longer wish to pursue that, okay?
Correct.
All right. Anything you want to add, Ms. Swetnam, just at any point, just roll in.
I just was going to address the fact that there was a permit submitted for a street fair permit that was considered at the council meeting on March 20th, and it was unanimously approved by council. So there was a street fair permit that did include some conditions, but it was awarded. So.
Okay. All right. Council, Ms. Moulton.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Yeah.
Chief Floyd, thanks for the background on that. And I understand that some of their concerns might be the financial concerns, some of which you addressed. I understand that we have some officers that work overtime for the event because it's, for obvious reasons, it's very large. And that is a cost that has risen over the past several years significantly. Is that something that you can speak to, or is that, tell me a little bit about that.
The cost
please.
has been very consistent over the last few years that I have firsthand knowledge of. I know that it's a significant number of our staff, many of them that we ask to work 12-hour days. No one in our patrol commission staff gets the day off on that day, command staff included. So it's a significant investment by our department, and that cost to them hasn't changed in a number of years that I've been involved with the management of it.
But just for clarity purposes too, and I heard you, and I think if any of the other council wishes to chime in, please do so. But for the record, that the city did do what it agreed to do, and we met that. And then from my knowledge, even though we're reviewing some records, that they've not ever had LTAX dollars in this process because it was such a big event and all the other reasons. So it wasn't anything that I think I can determine thus far, unless we can figure it out, but it wasn't anything that the city did or did not do that affected this outcome, which is what we're really trying to state. And I think that this process is still in discussion to see what if the town wants it. But I think that from at least some initial investigation or discussion, that the organizers of the event themselves were a bit tired, and they were in their, I think, late 70s or whatever it was, but at the end of the day, they just couldn't find anybody to take it over. And I think that brings us where we are. I know a lot of people are disappointed. The discussion is still ensuing. We're still trying to find out if anything, and we will keep you up. But I felt it important that as a city, we clear up some misunderstandings about what taking place. The city did exactly as it said it would do and what it was asked to do. So where we go from here is yet to be determined. Any other council members want to chime in at this point? Okay, with that said, I don't see any hands up. Thank you, Chief. All right, with that said, we're going to move forward now to Finance Committee report.
Mr. Young,
Yes, Mr. McDougall.
we had a Finance Committee meeting last week on the 14th, attended by Mr. Walters, yourself, and myself. And quick notes here. Primarily, we discussed some possible modifications to our contract process, some streamlining kind of ideas, and like one of which would be to allow, say, the city attorney to delegate review of contracts, like to the contract specialist. And basically, like contracts, they go through a number of review stages, and that would allow for that delegation to basically streamline one piece out of that. I don't know that we came to a final conclusion on that. We're still under discussion. Other couple items we discussed, say, approval thresholds, where department heads could, the threshold where department head approval could just go through without, taking it further up the chain. So raising that amount. And similarly, like quote thresholds for materials, supplies, and equipment. Let's see, checking another bit of notes here. After that, we also discussed fire EMS funds and combining those into a common fund. Basically, fire is in the general fund and pull EMS also to the general fund for, again, streamlining, but also maybe some additional flexibility. And we spent a little bit of time talking about a couple capital project updates, and that's actually kind of all I had in my notes. Did you have anything else, Mr. Young?
No, I think that you covered it and covered it well. I think that was the essence of what we were really discussing and trying to reach some conclusion to. Thank you, Mr. McDougall.
Thank you.
The Housing Affordability and Community Service Committee report.
Mr. Young, I wasn't at that meeting. I believe it was canceled. Is that right, Ms. Cleland McGrath?
Yes, that's correct. But if it's okay, I will talk a little bit about our wonderful meeting we had countywide, and it was regarding the North Star Initiative. So all council members from across the county, all including mayors, some executives from various counties, from the various cities, and then the county commissioners were invited to kind of go over the initial first year of North Star. And so North Star is a combined effort to assess the strengths and challenges of Skagit County when it comes to or those experiencing homelessness, behavioral health, addictive issues. And so we all were invited to sit down at McIntyre Hall. We had dinner together. We were all placed with other council members and county executives and consultants from the Tenfold Health to talk about what our strengths are, where we need help, and how we're going to address the gaps in social services. So, Mr. Young was there, Ms. Hubick was there, Councilmember Walters and myself were all there. And I think that I would speak for all of us that it was really wonderful to get together and talk about kind of where we see challenges, how we're dealing with some of our issues, and how we can work together to improve that for folks that are part of our community. We also heard from Tenfold Health about kind of this vital conditions, which is a template for how you address those experiencing homelessness and behavioral health issues that's been implemented across the nation. But then the next step is how do we apply that locally so that we build awareness and address those issues within our community. And I think it was a really nice experience for us all to go through. I think we need a lot more of that. So props to the county for organizing this and providing this platform. But I think there's a lot more to do.
Thank you, Ms. Cleveland McGrath. If I might add, one of the wonderful things about it that I thought was so heartwarming was at each of the tables you had a council member or a mayor or someone representing each of the cities within Skagit County. And it was a beautiful thing because more often than not, you're working to resolve issues within your city, and you really don't get a chance to build that camaraderie and that friendship of collaboration, of uniting around the issue that we all have, and in some ways we're operating so separately. But we're trying to figure out how do you work together to make this thing an efficient use not only of resources, but a collaboration that allows the penetration we're trying to do on these hardcore issues. For me, and from what I saw in other council members, it was just really a wonderful collaboration. Each, as we talked among the other cities, they were telling what they were doing, what their hopes were, what their challenges were. And we were finding that we had a common thread. But this common thread also allows us with the North Star Project to be able to collaborate. So when we began figuring out how we pool resources and opportunities, it allows us to do it from this standpoint of not only friendship, but a greater cooperation of working together, because these are people you've spoken to, you've laughed with, and we all agree that this is the issue. So thank you. I just wanted to add that. But it's a wonderful thing, and I do think that the plan is for us to have more than just a yearly meeting. Their hope is that we can do this far more frequently, but that's to be determined. I had a wonderful time. Did you? Oh, you were there in spirit, my friend. All right. Thank you. Next, we're going to go to the Public Works Committee.
Mr. Young.
Ms. Moulton.
The Public Works Committee happened at 5 p.m. today. It was Mr. Young and myself and Public Works staff from different departments, and we had two topics. The first was there is a new facilities position that was filled internally, and that position is split with utilities. So this person goes back and forth between Anacortes and the water treatment plant in Mount Vernon, and therefore needs a vehicle. So our operations manager was able to procure one with money received from a surplus auction. The city made $100,000 at the surplus auction that went into our equipment reserve and replacement fund, and so money from that came out to buy this new vehicle, which is about $70,000. It's a service vehicle, a big truck with a bed and a toolbox, so outfitted exactly how we need it. It doesn't affect our budget. It was an unbudgeted cost, but so that all worked out really well. The second thing we talked about is the item on tonight's agenda, which is the contract award for water plant system reliability upgrades. And this is an ongoing project. And this particular aspect of it has been in the capital facilities plan since 2020. And it's the second to the last part of this whole system being booted and refreshed. Basically, the massive pumps that send the water from the water plant in Mount Vernon to Anacortes needed some computer replacements because the current ones are obsolete. So that's what's happening, and that will be described a little bit more in the presentation on that item. And that was it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Moulton. Next, we have the Economic Development Committee report. Ms. Cleland McGrath, are you willing to take this one on?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Councilmember Young. I kind of feel like this is your ball of wax, so I'm happy to have you round it out for me. But you know, it was our first meeting with our new planning director, and so it was an opportunity for us to kind of talk about what's happened in the past and where we want to see it go in the future. What came out of it is that we need to do a deep dive and articulate what kind of economic development plan we would like to see produced. And we had representatives from the hospital, from the chamber, and then kind of from the community at large. But what we realize is that we've got to include everyone. We need to take advantage of the various strategic plans that our community partners have completed, and then figure out what our goals are for our economic strategic plan. Whether it, including the maritime strategic plan, the hospital, the school district, the chamber, and various others. And I think that that's kind of what I gathered from it, but I'm sure, Mr. Young, you probably have some more to share with the community.
Thank you, Ms. Cleland McGrath. No, that was excellent. I think part of the point we were making was a reconvening, given that Mr. Miesemer had retired and the team and the staff, and we had brought on a new director, John, and also his team. And we wanted to give them a chance to sort of settle into their roles and begin this conversation. The beauty of it is that there was a lot of wonderful ideas at the table. And we had stakeholders who felt confident that we were on the right track, that they were being included and will be included in the meetings to come. And part of that is to hear their concerns, to hear their ideas, to hear their thoughts on how we move forward. And so that was the beauty of this committee. And I believe that we're on track. Our team and our staff that we have is superb. And so I'm very happy about that. But we wanted the public to be aware that all of those silos of influence, whether it's the hospital, the chamber, hospitality, downtown, all of those people are stakeholders in our economic look at Anacortes and seeing what we want it to be and how we want to help it thrive, whatever that is. So, thank you. Any other announcements at this point? We're going to move to item number 4, public comment. And I don't think we have anyone signed up. And do we have any hands online? Okay, all right. Going once, going twice, and gone. All right, now we're going to move to the consent agenda. Item 5A, B, C, and D.
Mr. Young?
Ms. Moulton.
I move to approve consent agenda items 5A through D.
A second.
Motion by Ms. Moulton, a second by Mr. McDougall. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, great. We're going to move on to item 6, other business. We're pulling item 6A, Ms. Swetnam, you want to speak to that just a little bit? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, staff is asking that this item be pulled tonight because there are still some adjustments that need to be made in the legal description of the easement area. So we're working with the attorney for Dike District 17 to get those done and anticipate bringing this back in a couple of weeks. So my apologies for the last minute change.
Thank you for the hard work you do. Okay, with that, we're going to move to item 6B, which is a contract award for the water plant system reliability upgrades, phases 4 and 5, number 23-173-WTR-001. This is a discussion and possible action item.
Good evening. Brian McDaniel, Water System Manager, City of Anacortes. With me this evening, I brought Isaac Brunk, our water plant supervisor. This evening, we have a contract award to proceed forward with the reliability upgrades at the water treatment plant. Effectively, this is the communication that the computers talk to the motor controls, and we're nearing the end of this project to have the controls not lock out during a power outage or a communication failure. So this is a continuation of that project, and as Ms. Moulton mentioned earlier, ongoing, and we have about one more phase to go to finish this project up, but we need to further evaluate the components of that before we include that portion. So we're here to answer any questions that you might have about the project.
Okay. Council?
Mr. Young?
Ms. Moulton?
So we did, as talked about, have a good discussion about this in the Public Works Committee meeting, and it seems very straightforward and something that we absolutely need to do. So I move to authorize the mayor to sign contract 23173 WTR-001 with QCC in the amount of $362,495.94 to perform the water plant system reliability upgrades, phases 4 and 5.
We have a motion by Ms. Moulton. Is there a second?
Second.
And I think that was Mr. Carter.
That
Mr.
was
McDougall. All right, thank
Yeah.
you. All right, we have a motion by Ms. Moulton, a second by Mr. McDougall. All, count the roll. All right. Mr. Franciat, would you count up the votes for us, please?
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath,
Yes.
Ms. Moulton,
Yes.
Mr. McDougall,
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have is item 6C, which is a contract award, Washington Park prefabricated restroom purchase, number 23-071-PRK-002. This is also a discussion action item. And I think we got the Parks team here. All right, there we go, Mr. Vokes.
Let's try that again. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Young, council members, members of the audience. Great to be here. We are grinding away on this project. We've had a few challenges that have come along that we've worked our way through. Essentially, if you look at the slide, in the lower left-hand corner, we have what we like to call the Liz Lovelet porta potties. She fought for those when she was a council member here, and they've been there several years. As we know, Liz has moved on to bigger and brighter things. If you look up the hill from those porta potties, you see our park shop, and that's out at Washington Park. And that is along Sunset Beach Place, which is the road that goes down to the beach, goes past there. If you look at the engineered drawing, you'll see a highlight of the road. You'll see the existing maintenance building. And then you will see where we would like to place what is basically a CXT model, the Cortez. And basically what that is, that's about half of what we have at Storvik. Storvik is kind of a combo of two of these. It's a little different make, but it's similar. The CXT units are manufactured in Spokane, Washington. They're as local as we can get to purchase prefab restrooms. We started this journey over a year ago. We were working with Quantum Construction at the time, and the costs to build a restroom from scratch were just prohibitive, and even Quantum urged us to take the CXT route when we started looking at the price comparisons. So we have the money budgeted. We have spent a significant amount of time working with the wastewater treatment plant folks because we were a little further down the hill originally than as close to the shop as we are here, but that was going to require a pump station, and even the one that we would need for this two-holder was going to be probably close to a $200,000 addition to our price tag. So we moved it up the hill a little further, and we're going to save some money, and we're going to be able to get gravity flow for the sewer from there to where we need to go. So we are, we're working hard to continue to improve the park. Everybody knows that, parks are pretty and fun, but at the heart of every park is a toilet and a garbage can, and if we don't manage those correctly, none of the rest of it's really very much fun. So this improves our service delivery, especially to the group picnic area, which is a highly used, very popular annual gathering spot for many, many families and class reunions and memorial services and weddings and all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be a lot less smelly and a lot more enjoyable to use, and we would love to get your support to upgrade the park with this Cortez unit.
Thank you, Mr. Volks. When I first moved here to Anacortes, one of the things that delightfully surprised me is that how well the restrooms and the bathrooms were kept. Those were always potential horror stories, and so you would never really take a chance. And so, I was amazed because I would, as family would come, and they would instantly resist going there. And I said, no, this is Anacortes. It really does, it's really maintained very well. So that's kind of a backhanded compliment, but it really does speak a lot to the work that goes into it by the team and the staff in order to maintain it for the public use. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to add, Mr. Lunsford? Or okay, all right. I'm going to open it to council. Council. Ms. Moulton, I see your light on. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Again, this is a very obvious need. I'm glad it's happening, and I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign contract 23071 PRK 002 with CXT Incorporated in the amount of $127,337.13 for the Washington Park prefabricated restroom purchase.
All right. We got a motion by Ms. Moulton, and I heard a second. Is that Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we had a motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. Carter. All right. Mr. Franciat, would you take the vote, please?
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Yes.
Ms. Moulton.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Volks and Mr. Lunsford. Next, we've got the contract approval reimbursement agreement between Administrative Office of the Courts and City of Anacortes for Blake decision number 23-183 MCT-001. This is a discussion item, and we have Ms. Shu.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and members of the audience. Tonight, I have something that's very easy to present to you. In October of 22, Darcy Swetnam, our city attorney, provided a presentation in which she shared information about the Office of Administrative Courts providing some assistance to the city for extraordinary judicial, prosecutorial, and defense-related costs resulting from the resentencing and vacating of sentences of defendants whose convictions or sentences were impacted by the Blake decision. That agreement that City Council approved was set to go until the end of June 2023. What this is a one-year extension that will provide that same amount of funding, the $72,734. It will extend that contract by 1 year. Currently, we have not expended any of the funds that were allocated to us, but this allows additional time as we continue to move forward post Blake fix in 2023 and into 2024 to address it. So tonight, what we're asking is for the City Council to approve this renewed contract and agreement with the Office of Administrative Courts that will allow us to utilize those funds as they're expended.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shu. Well, I'm going to, unless there's anything else, I'm going to open it up to council, and looking to my left. That's sort of a, yeah, we have our council members online, so anyway, I'm opening it up to council. Oh, Ms. Moulton.
Mayor Pro Tem Young, hello. In absence of any conversation, I move that the City Council authorize the mayor to execute Agreement 23183 MCT-001 between the city and Washington State Administrative Office of the Courts.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. McDougall? Mr. Carter. Yeah, I'm not as good as the mayor in recognizing voices, unless I see your lips moving while I'm up here. But, okay, thank you very much. Again, we have a motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. Carter. Mr. Francia, would you take the roll, please?
Ms. Moulton.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yeah.
Motion carries.
Thank you, thank you. I think that's unless there's something else on the agenda that I'm not aware of, there's one final announcement I would be remiss not to mention. This past weekend, the city of Anacortes hosted the Pride Parade, and it was just an enormous outflowing of people from everywhere, all kinds, all looks, all colors. I like to call it the crayon box. And but it was a wonderful event. It pulled off without a stitch. And I want to thank all of the participants that were there, the organizers that were there, the city staff that was there to help. And but the Pride Board and Committee outdid themselves. There were estimates of a doubling of numbers from last year. And I just wanted to thank our city for reaching out and opening its heart to everyone within our city with so much love, and the whole thought was leaning into love, and we're stronger together as a group of people. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting unless there's anything else, and that's the gavel. Thank you very much, everybody.